What's going on, everyone? Back here again with another market watch. One thing I'd really just like to talk about just before we dive in here is originally One Piece was a player's game. There wasn't a ton of collectability to it, but with the rise in OP01 and people demanding like $800 for blue bottom boxes and things like that, it definitely changes the dynamic to the game that we know and love, and it'd be interesting to see it play out. The biggest thing I think is just for OP01 staples, like obviously there's some power creep coming, so just be careful. Always spend money you can afford on cards. Never spend or overextend yourself. It's just a card game at the end of the day. But yeah, so one of the things obviously that have happened recently is, of course, the mention of Newgate and the Newgate bans. And then shortly after, Bandai sweeping in, announcing that they will unban it at the start of the next format with the release of OP05. And so you can kind of just see here a lot of the prices. And we'll talk about those a bit later, but just wanted to highlight those and then some other cards that were, of course, impacted. But as always, I try to keep an eye on things related to the meta for you all. These, of course, that way you know like what's going on, my thoughts on it, what you might need to pick up had you not thought about it, and potentially some cards that have gone up without you realizing, or perhaps they've gone down. But yeah, all of it with OP05 in mind. First up, and this also kind of applies to the 4.5, 4.75 dynamic that we have going on right now with the structure deck 3 captains being released. You've got the red purple law, which is a crazy controlled deck. And so first card is, of course, the Trafalgar law. I've mentioned this card before. You can see previously it's been like $2. Now it's sitting strong at $6. A lot of sales at that 6 mark, and a lot of sales these past couple of days. People are looking to play this deck. I think this deck is good now. Obviously, it's not legal for these events. I might play this at the upcoming Treasure Cup next week. So let me know in the comments below if I should play this deck. So let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see me play this deck next week. And then, of course, another one that we talked about in the last video, Charlotte Katakuri. With the announcing of the red unbans, you see like a huge drop, of course. But also, you know, there's a lot of FOMO or fear of missing out. Don't get swept in that. I saw some people in the Facebook groups looking to pay an absurd amount, and it made sense at the time, one could argue, because he was sitting at like 80, 90 bucks. And I even considered getting rid of mine because I'm like, but Ace is going to be yellow in the Three Brothers structure deck, so we couldn't do that. But he's back down at a nice 50 again. Inaru or Enel being relatively decent. He's definitely a contender. He's definitely a deck I think people are going to want to play in OP05. So something to keep your eye on since he is way cheaper than he was. $50. Very solid price point. Obviously still out of reach for a lot of people, being one of the more expensive cards out of Pillars of Strength, but definitely keep your eyes on it. I think it'll really, like, because we're in a very small format, there's very few events left. So do try to be cautious. If I was building a deck right now, I would 100% be building for OP05 and just, like, you know, spend this time learning the basics and just improving on my skill. And then, of course, we have Magellan. This listing, not legitimate, but he's back to around $10. If you're looking to play Purple Luffy, he was pulling up on 20, so this could be a great opportunity to pick him up, especially since Paramount War. I know there's been, like, blister packs going out, and Five Below had blister packs. I don't know if they still do. So I feel like there's, like, been a surge of stock back just available, which helped drive this, but relatively low. If you're a fan of the Purple Luffy or think you might want to play him, it might be the time to pick up that playset since it's back to some prices we haven't seen in a bit. And then, of course, like the alts, I highlighted these before, and then now they finally make sense. They're both about the same, which I always said that they should be about neck and neck with each other. I would not pick these up unless, like, if you have these, definitely. I have a playset because I picked it up when I figured that this card was going to be relevant. There is possibility that like Purple Luffy gets hype again and then like that. But I mean, $50 is very strong for this card that was once like 15. So I think that there's not much more for this to do. So it might be a time to get rid of those. And then, of course, one of the cards, this is a tech choice in Purple Luffy, but like big bodies is kind of a thing that they do. So you might want to consider picking up an Urashima with OP01. He is just a common, but like, you know, the cards in there have been going kind of crazy. Might be just worth picking up playset. This because, you know, a 7-9 is not bad at all. And I was playing him in Kaido. And then, of course, Borsalino still sitting up here. Highlighting them before. Solid 20. As somebody, you hate to see it, but I do see the Borsalino count going down in SakaLucci as the Sakazuki deck has changed. And so, something to keep your eye on. I've seen people play 3. I want to say I've seen him at 2. But he's shown up less and less. But definitely I could see him just because if SakaLucci is the best deck in the format, these could just go crazy. Again, with Paramount War and Romance Dawn getting very hyped. So just keep your eyes on that. And then, of course, with the SakaLucci evolution, you have Hina. Hina jumped up there for a bit. Of course, was worth nothing, but was sitting at like $5. Comes out of that Absolute Justice structure deck. It's so interesting to watch these cards like rotate in value because Shockwave was $10 out of that deck and it was like a majority of the value. But now we have Hina. You use it in combination with Rebecca's mom, and then you, if it's in your trash, you can ditch it off as like Sakazuki to draw, and then you can add it back to your hand and then play it, and then you can use that minus for the removal. And so just something to keep your eyes on. If you don't have these, it might be worth picking up just because there's like that resurgence is still relatively low on that as well. Great Eruption out of the deck. This card was quite literally nothing for a good period of time, and then SakaLucci arrived and it is now $8. So this is something you might not have known about. Definitely, like, if you have these structure decks, definitely, like, look through your bulk, maybe, if you put them in, like, a bulk box after you grab the cards you need, because, yeah, now this card is super relevant. And then, of course, with that, you have Suru. She's been making her way up, of course, always being, like, a black staple, but, again, Paramount War has been getting, like, very hyped right now, sitting at about $1.50. Might be worth picking up these play sets before we go into OP05, is then, like, everybody's going to be looking for them. But on top of that, if you like max rarity, there are the event packs. You know, the price has been relatively stable, but now it's been like high with not a lot of purchases, but sitting at like 18 at the lowest. Previously was selling at like 10. So Suru is on the rise. Not the greatest alt out there, but it is the higher rarity if you consider this over the pre-release. So something to keep your eyes on, and you might have pulled this previously out of your pack and thought, oh yeah, I know it's like $7. Well, now it's sitting at around 18. It might be worth trying to move those. I just pulled one. We also have Yamato sitting at a strong 45. Green decks got hyped. Kinemon had a showing prior to the list, and then now here we are. This card's crazy at the end of the day, double attack and banish, but again with Romance Dawn, OP01 hype, something to keep your eyes on. Some people you might have let yours go, you might have your sitting in a binder. It is pretty much $50. So if you need those, I wouldn't necessarily pick it up. It might be relevant in OP06, but again, it's a short format. If you collect, definitely pick these up. I have 2. I'm probably not going to pick up anymore, but I know it's of course good in Kinemon and possibly like Odin. And then of course, again, like there's the Yamato coming out in OP06 plus Kinemon hype. You see Odin here. There was a couple of sales, not a ton, but like sitting at around like $25. So it's very nice. Again, that Paramount War, both of those have been really hyped. The leaders have all gone up in value / been bought out. So if you haven't picked up your leader alts, those are probably going to be like the highest collectability if I had to guess and what people are going for. I've been picking up a couple myself just so that way I'm not out here like, oh, I wish I'd gotten these sooner. And we, of course, here have art long. So there's actually some nasty green and yellow cards coming out. There's a green, essentially like green boat that on play rests all your opponent's characters. And then there's a Hiroshi, Momonosuke's sister, that can stack a card in life. You get to take the card from your life and put a card in your life for 2 dawns. So this card has been being hyped because he's a green-yellow leader. So something to keep your eyes on. Then, of course, the theory that new Fishman Pirate support's going to come out. And then, of course, on the OP01, we have Shanks. Shanks might see a rise in play briefly, but of course everything in OP01 has been being bought out. But if you don't have a playset of this card it might be replaced by the Luffy, but a 9-10 rush is still very good. Might be worth having. And then of course this one, I don't know if this is the value. Like, you look at these prices, there's nothing sold anywhere near $60, but if you have one of these laying around or in your binder, it is good to be aware that he might be on the up and up. But yeah, I have 4 of these. I actually paid $160 back when the game first came out, just because this is my favorite art of this. But now I just want to take a moment to talk about like some of the speculation here. So Marco is also on the list at 1. We've seen them state that they will like unban cards, but it only makes sense. Like, I mean, Marco 5 drop is way worse than Marco 6 drop, but there's no guarantee, or Marco 5 drop is no guarantee that these will be removed. But if you think about it, these cards at their peak were quite expensive, peaking at $60. And then, of course, there's like more hype on these sets now than there was back then. And I could see if this came back, this being like, once again, like a $40, $50 card at these price points. I like picking it up. I have 3 just in case, like, you know, you can pick up a playset if you'd like, if you have the funds to do so. There's a lot of room there. Like you saw, like, there's no guarantee that 9 drop comes back, but on the news, 9 drop went up, but Marco did not. Marco didn't move in price. He's actually like less. He's less than $20 a piece. I think I paid like $20 for my 3 each. But then, of course, I want to talk about this Luffy. Red, like, kind of, we'll see what happens with these events, but red kind of fades next set. But also this Luffy in particular gets a reprint in the pretty much like your locals tournament packs. So if you're not planning to play red, I would not pick these up, and I would also consider maybe like moving mine, because you'll get them in, like, you'll have a chance to pull them in your entry pack, and you'll probably pull a playset if you play at your locals every week. So something to keep your eyes on for that. And then kind of let's talk collectibles. So Zoro went down to like 250, like 220. There was a lot of 220s with the announce of the ban list, with the announce of the removal, right back at 300. Not a crazy amount of sales, of course, being one of the more expensive leaders, but both Zoro and Law saw a huge spike. And now I want to talk about this Luffy. It's OP01, but this Luffy is red and green. If you follow me on Twitter at Vampyr Gaming, I do tweet out things. I'll tweet out combos, things that I expect, all kinds of cool goodness. Definitely consider following me there. But this Luffy can play Nami to search the green Zoro that can attack 3 times. There's a 9-drop Zoro that can swing 3 times. And then on top of that, with the red, you can play Diable Jambe. The only other leader that can do this is Law. And Law likes to do Law things. So I think this is more adequately suited. Plus, on top of that, with this Luffy's ability, you can use that in combination with... there's essentially an evergreen fiery doll that comes out for just regular characters or leader. And you can use that with the unblockable Luffy and this leader. So you could do giant unblockable swings and restand. So something to keep your eyes out for. And just like, I could see this possibly, like, if I got a reasonable enough price on one of these, I would consider picking one up, because he could actually be in the meta. We'll have to see really how OP06 shapes out and if it's really viable, but I could see like Zoro Turbo possibly being something. And then of course you have the Nami. So this was, I saw people, I covered it, people were selling it for like 120, 200. As soon as the ban was announced, everybody was in the groups offering 200 on one. Should have just bought it. I don't love it at 300. This is probably one of those cards I might never have in my collection unless my locals has one. I have a bunch of store credit, which is how I got my Zoro leader. And then, again, Romance Dawn is very hyped. This card just got reprinted in the 3 caption structure decks. I highly recommend picking them up if you need a Zoro, or if you think, because like Zoro, this card will probably always be good forever just because Rush, unless they just go absolutely bonkers. But this could also be a great opportunity to pick him up because everybody's looking to move theirs, and this is Romance Dawn, and with like the hype around Romance Dawn, this could have like that collector's value. So if you're going for that, this might be worth picking up at this point because you can get 4 for under $30, under 25 probably. So something to keep your eyes on. Just wanted to highlight this. And then of course you have this one. Some people are like making purchases, but not a ton. Obviously, just buy the deck. You buy the deck for $30. I think they're still in stock at Target. Online, you buy the deck, you get 4 of these. Great value. And you also get 4 alt art Namis that you'll be able to use in OP05. And then, of course, on the collectibles as well, we want to talk about Purple Kaido. I really don't understand $110. In my opinion, I don't think he's that good either. Yeah, I just don't think he's that good either. And then on collectibles as well, we see the sales, $5,000. And then 4,000. So there's one sitting there. These were like forever ago, but there's one sitting on here for $4,000 that's been removed. I've seen people in the groups offering now $4,300 on this serial Luffy. Obviously, if you have one of these in your binder laying around, you might want to take it out. No, but actually, like, this is something that would be interesting to see how it plays out. I really wish I had one. I might someday eventually be lucky enough to pick one up. I tried to win one. Didn't work out, but we keep moving. The Shanks will be mine. But then, of course, on the collectability, I think something that, like, in terms of collectibles is being overlooked is, of course, these super pre-release decks. It's got an all-art Luffy that will never be featured anywhere else, allegedly. Or slash hasn't been featured anywhere else. But we'll see. I doubt they reprint, like, that art. But I think this card is just, like, it's, like, the first edition. I think a lot of people are like buying a lot of Romance Dawn and forgetting about this card here. I do own 2, but yeah, those are just my thoughts. This has been the Market Watch. Again, just try to keep your eye out for those cards in the meta. Keep a pulse. If you don't already follow me on Twitter, do so. If you're not subscribed to the channel and you find this content of value, do consider subscribing. I try to make content to help you be as competitive as possible in One Piece. Thank you all for watching.